Good evening, Philippines, and good day, world. It's Wednesday, December 13th, 2023, and you're watching Newsline World. I'm Sarah Santos. We will bring you the top stories we've gathered from all over the globe. Vice President Sara Duterte commended SMNI Laban kasama ang Bayan host Jeffrey K. Erixelis and Dr. Lorraine Badoy for fighting for what is right and just. The UN General Assembly adopted a resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza as the war between Hamas and Israel continues to rage. U.S. Republican lawmaker Mitch Mcconnell said it is practically impossible to pass a Ukraine funding before Christmas. This comes after Biden pledged to provide $200 million in aid for Kiev during Zelensky's visit to Washington. The COP28 summit in Dubai ended with a division over the use of fossil fuels. And the ties between China and Vietnam entered a new stage as President Xi Jinping concluded his visit to Hanoi. These and more for tonight's edition of Newsline World. And for our first news, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky received a $200 million promise from U.S. President Joe Biden as Kiev appeals for more military aid to fight Russian troops. Sarah Santos reports.
U.S. President Joe Biden has promised another $200 million in emergency military assistance during an Oval Office meeting with his Ukrainian counterpart, Volodymyr Zelensky. The meeting between the two comes a week after the U.S. Senate blocked a bill intended to provide $60 billion in aid for Ukraine. Republicans are demanding tougher border measures to control the surge of immigration on the southern border of the United States in exchange for approving aid not only for Ukraine but also for Israel, U.S. allies in the Indo-Pacific, and humanitarian assistance to Gaza. All in all, the package totaled $106 billion, of which $60 billion is for Ukraine. After the meeting, Biden spoke to reporters, insisting that the U.S. Congress should pass the supplemental funding for Ukraine before breaking for recess. The latest $200 million in assistance pledged by Biden for Ukraine will come from the Presidential Drawdown Authority, or PDA. This move will allow the U.S. government to transfer weapons from U.S. stocks without the need for congressional approval in the event of an emergency. Earlier, Zelensky met with American lawmakers on Capitol Hill to ask them for more aid as the conflict with Russia grinds on. Zelensky met with the U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson as well as other senators. Although Zelensky has received a pledge from Biden himself, there's still the issue regarding the passing of the supplemental funding package, which includes the $60 billion for Ukraine. Hours after Zelensky met with them, Senate Republican leader Mitch Mcconnell was quoted saying that it would be practically impossible for U.S. Congress to pass such a package before Christmas. McConnell said that it needed to be done as part of a large package that included American border security policy. McConnell stressed the need for the White House to stop deferring the Senate Democrats regarding the negotiations and to be involved to ensure that any potential legislation can be signed. Reporting, this has been Sarah Santos, SMNI News.
There are now 3 EU states that are not in favor of Ukraine joining the bloc, and that third state is Austria. This is after its federal chancellor insisted that there should be no fast-track procedure on Kiev's accession. Austria is also not in favor of Moldova joining the union for similar reasons. Carla de la Peña has the details.
Austrian Federal Chancellor Karl Nehammer said there should be no preferential treatment for Ukraine when it comes to joining the European Union. Nehammer made the remarks during a recent Austrian government meeting. This is in response to proposals from the European Commission to launch the accession talks with Ukraine as soon as possible. Austria joined Hungary and Slovakia, 2 EU member countries that are also not in favor with Ukraine's membership talks into the bloc. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that the bloc's leaders would only talk about the opening of accession negotiations, not the accession itself at the upcoming European Council summit this week. Meanwhile, Niama said that Austria was generally in favor of EU expansion and agreed to offer Ukraine and Moldova the prospects of accession. But Niama is not in favor of fast-tracking the EU membership for the two states, and that internal EU reforms would also be needed to prepare the union for expansion. He also insisted that Austria would not agree to any accession talks with Ukraine under the current conditions. According to the Austrian leader, von der Leyen had not consulted him or any other leaders before issuing a recommendation in November to open formal membership talks with Ukraine. However, Ukraine said it has fulfilled all the key requirements in order to join the bloc and urged EU members to play fairly and recognize its efforts. Reporting, this has been Carlo de la Peña, SMNI News.
Poland has a new prime minister, and he was just sworn in earlier Wednesday by the president of the said country. Donald Tusk is Poland's new pro-EU prime minister, and he was sworn in together with the ministers of the new administration. Tusk previously served as prime minister of Poland from 2007 to 2014 and was a former president of the European Council. He vowed to restore the country's position in the EU after rule of law infringements strained ties between Poland and the bloc. But before a new government lineup was formed, the Polish parliament first debated on whether to endorse a cabinet that Tusk proposed, but far-right legislator Grzegorz Braun caused a scene by using a fire extinguisher to put out Hanukkah candles during an event with members of the Jewish community. The Prime Minister of Japan announced his plans to make changes to his cabinet on Thursday amid a widening fundraising scandal that affected public support for his administration. Natsumi Kojima reports.
Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida assured the public that his administration has a strong sense of crisis to address political funding problems, as he vowed to remove government officials involved in a slush fund scandal.
The proposed cabinet shake-up will take place following reports that lawmakers in his group received tens of millions of yen in undeclared political funds. Most of the public officials involved were top cabinet and party posts from the ruling Liberal Democratic Party's largest and most powerful faction led by assassinated former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. The Prime Minister even stepped down as the chief of his faction in Japan's ruling party last week and vowed to take necessary actions to restore public trust. Kishida is expected to remove 4 cabinet ministers and several deputy ministers, including new Chief of Cabinet Secretary Matsuno Hirokazu, who holds one of the most powerful posts in government. The public funds allegedly went to unmonitored slush funds, while implicated officials could face a possible violation of campaign election laws.
Kishida might also cancel a planned trip to Brazil and Chile next month in order to focus on solving domestic issues, as reported by the local media. Ijo Nihon kara Kojima Natsumi News o tsutai shimashita. SMNI News, Japan.
The United Nations Climate Change Summit in the United Arab Emirates ended with international negotiators divided on whether to phase out or reduce fossil fuels. The United Nations-led summit known as COP28 ended at Expo City, Dubai after nearly 2 weeks of speeches, demonstrations, and negotiations. The draft text of a summit agreement released on Monday caused divisions after the word phase out was dropped and instead replaced with reducing the production and consumption of fossil fuels. At least 80 countries, including the United States and the European Union, supported the call to finally end the use of fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and gas. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia and Russia were among several countries that insisted only on reducing climate pollution instead of phasing it out. All 198 countries must agree on the draft, and there is no deal. Without a deal, negotiators are expected to meet again beyond the climate summit after the deadline was not met. The UN Climate Change Summit concluded on the 12th of December. Residents in northeast Australia prepared for the worst after a destructive cyclone made landfall in Queensland on Wednesday. Devi Suarez has the news.
Residents have started evacuating and fortifying their homes and businesses from the onslaught of Tropical Cyclone Jasper. Tropical cyclone Jasper has intensified to a Category 2 system, bringing with it strong winds and heavy rain. Locals and tourists alike have been moved to safety. The severe weather is producing damaging wind gusts on the far north Queensland coast, according to the Bureau of Meteorology. An emergency alert has been issued for Cairns, wherein residents have been advised to take shelter in the strongest parts of the building they are in. Most businesses had closed, and council officials were asked to take a day off on Wednesday. Wealthy boat owners have fled to safety upriver, while residents express fear that crocodiles could be washed up in the streets. Evacuations have been ordered as the destructive cyclone is expected to cause flash flooding and potential power outages that could last for up to 5 days. Reporting from New South Wales, this is Devi Suarez, SMNI News, Australia.
India's warship has arrived in the Philippines, demonstrating India's commitment to enhancing maritime security engagement with the country, as confirmed by the Indian embassy. It also assured the continued strengthening of relations between the two nations next year. More details from Jason Rubrico.
The INS Kadmat of the Indian Navy, an anti-submarine warship, is currently here in the Philippines. The two-day goodwill visit by the Indian Navy is part of their regional tour in the Indo-Pacific. The Philippine Navy, led by Vice Commander Rear Admiral Cesar Bernard Valencia, warmly welcomed Indian counterparts. As part of their visit, a maritime partnership exercise took place between the Indian warship and the Philippine Navy's BRP Ramon Alcaraz.
We've been having Indian Navy ships visit the Philippines regularly because it's important that we walk the talk when it comes to engagement between our navies. We should have our Navy ships engage with each other, have training exchanges, operational exchanges. I think it's important to have these operational exchanges because we grow when we work together.
Indian Ambassador to the Philippines, Shambu Kumaran, emphasized that New Delhi's priority is the Indo-Pacific, with the Philippines at the center of this region. He highlighted the ongoing strengthening of relations between the Philippines and India in 2024.
We have a shared interest in peace and stability of the region, a lot of complementarities. So you will expect that India will continue a strong Navy and maritime security engagement.
The last visit of India's INS Kadmat to the Philippines was in October 2017. For God and my beloved Philippines, I am Jason Rubrico, SMNI News.
The government is now issuing a warning against those who possess and sell pre-registered SIM cards. The details from MJ Mondihar.
Pre-registered SIM cards are now available in the internet. These SIMs have undergone registration using the fake identity of an individual. In fact, on Facebook's marketplace, pre-registered SIMs are widespread and used in illegal activities. They're sold for 150 pesos each or more on Facebook. The Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission is advising against their usage. In an interview, Undersecretary Gilbert Cruz said law enforcement agencies are intensifying their monitoring of pre-registered SIMs. The PAOCC also suggests increasing penalties for those selling and buying pre-registered SIMs, including imprisonment.
Ang sa tingin ko lang dito, taasan po natin ma'am yung penalties na once na you are in possession of a pre-registered SIM card, tapos especially na gagamitin mo sa kalokohan, whether it's pogo-related crimes or maybe yung kidnapping. Sa kidnapping po kasi nagagamit yung mga pre-registered SIM cards, and sa mga extortion activities ginagamit mo yan. Dapat higher penalties po yung possession lang po nun.
There is also a possibility that the personal data of an individual is being used on such pre-registered SIM cards, possibly taken from hacked government websites. The Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT, is currently investigating organized crime syndicates that use pre-registered SIMs.
Kung may pre-registered SIM card ka, tapos bogus po yung nasa loob. Once na napatunayan na bogus yung nasa loob na mga inentrada mo doon, automatic, dapat may mas penalized, mas mataas ang penalty. Pati nagbenta.
The DICT urges the public to report individuals or groups involved in selling pre-registered SIM cards to the Interagency Response Center at Hotline 1326. For Ganun of Philippines, MJ Mondihar, SMNI News.
The UN General Assembly has adopted a resolution demanding an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. However, this resolution is non-binding. The details from Shekinah Dikinia.
The result of the vote is as follows: 153 in favor, 10 against, 23 abstentions. Draft Resolution A/ES10/L27 has been adopted.
UN member states voted overwhelmingly in favor of a resolution calling for a humanitarian ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, a war that is now in its third month. The measure needed support from 2/3 of the Assembly's 193 members in order to pass, and during an emergency special session, the Assembly voted to demand an immediate ceasefire. 153 members were in favor, 23 voted to abstain, and 10 voted against, including the United States. Aside from the ceasefire, the resolution also calls for the unconditional release of all hostages in Gaza and urged both sides to comply with international law to protect the civilian populations of Israel and Palestine. The measure did not mention the October 7 Hamas attack on Israel. However, unlike UN Security Council resolutions, the approved resolution by the General Assembly is not legally binding. Although UN spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric said that messages from the UNGA are also very important and that it holds a lot of political weight. It can be remembered that the UN Security Council, which has 15 members, held a vote on a draft resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas. 13 Security Council member countries voted in favor of the resolution. The United States is the sole member that voted against it, while the United Kingdom abstained from the vote. The UNSC vote that happened last week came after UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres invoked Article 99 of the UN Charter to urge immediate action on what is currently happening in Gaza. Reporting, this has been Shekinah Dikinia, SMNI News.
Meanwhile, Iran condemned the United States after the latter rejected a United Nations resolution that called for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in the war-torn Gaza Strip. Melchizedek Cadiz has the news.
Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesman Nasser Kanani called the United States a party agitator for the war crime in Gaza, saying that the act contradicts the requirement of the United Nations and the international community. The resolution was drafted by the United Arab Emirates and supported by more than 100 countries. It also gained support from 13 out of 15 Security Council members, with the United Kingdom abstaining. However, the United States voted the resolution and criticized the Council for its failure to condemn Hamas. U.S. Deputy Ambassador Robert Wood said the resolution was imbalanced and would allow Hamas to continue to rule Gaza and plant the seeds for the next war. Meanwhile, an overwhelming majority of 153 UN member states voted in favor of a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza on Tuesday. Only 10 countries, including the United States and Israel, voted against it, while 33 countries such as the United Kingdom, Italy, and Germany abstained. Reporting, this has been Melchizedek Cadiz, SMNI News, Kuwait.
The death toll on the Israel-Hamas war has reached more than 19,600 amid calls for a humanitarian truce. According to the recent report of the Gaza Health Ministry, the Palestinian death toll from the ongoing Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip has mounted to 18,412. Ministry spokesman Ashraf Al-Qudra said that 50,100 other people were injured. The Israeli death toll in the Hamas attack stood at 1,200 as per official figures. Meanwhile, 10 Israeli soldiers were killed in the fighting in northern Gaza, making it the deadliest day for the troops since their ground offensive against Hamas began. According to the Israeli Defense Forces, 9 of the 10 soldiers that were killed had been fighting in Shijaya to the east of Gaza City after they fell victim to a coordinated ambush. Meanwhile, another group affected by the current conflict in the Middle East has successfully returned to the country. Let's find out more from NJ Mondihar.
18 of our fellow Filipinos from Lebanon will be spending Christmas in the Philippines this year. They were caught in the crossfire of the current conflict in the Middle East between Israel and the militant group Hezbollah. These repatriated Filipinos constitute the 17th batch to return to the Philippines from Lebanon. The Department of Foreign Affairs raised Lebanon's alert to level 3 back in October, coinciding with a call for voluntary participation in repatriation for our fellow countrymen. The government ensured assistance for returning Filipinos, including support from TESDA, the Department of Migrant Workers, OWA, and DSWD.
Ang naproprovide po namin ay mga cash assistance at food assistance worth 20,000 pesos. Pero hindi naman po doon nahihinto ang pagtulong ng ating ahensya para sa ating mga repatriates.
Vicky, a 51-year-old household worker, is among those who have returned to the country. She worked in Lebanon for 8 months during the conflict there. According to her, life in Lebanon was challenging due to the war. So they are grateful to the government for the assistance in returning home. They also expressed their gratitude to President Bongbong Marcos.
Marami pong salamat sa inyo sa pag-a-assist ninyo sa amin ng maayos. Magandang pag-aalaga sa amin sa Lebanon, sa mga taong tumulong sa amin doon upang kami ay makabalik ng ating bansa.
To sum it all, a total of 110 Filipinos and Filipino overseas have returned to the Philippines from Lebanon. For Ganimabal of Philippines, MJ Mondihar, SMNI News.
In other news, a lawmaker in Thailand was sentenced to 6 years in prison for posts deemed insulting to the monarchy. Let's find out more from Chatmongkon Pizamaygoson.
A court in Thailand convicted and sentenced on Wednesday 29-year-old Move Forward Party MP Rachano Sinok for defaming the country's powerful monarchy.
Sinok was accused of posting messages about the COVID-19 vaccine between July 18 to August 9 last year that showed contempt and hatred towards the king. The activist turned lawmaker was found guilty by the criminal court on 2 counts of lèse majesté law as well as the Computer Crimes Act. Under Section 112 of the Thai Criminal Code, it is illegal to defame, insult, or threaten the monarch of Thailand. The law covers the king, the queen, the heir apparent, or the regent, and is punishable with a jail term between 3 and 15 years. Thailand's lèse majesté law is among the strictest in the world. Meanwhile, the 29-year-old lawmaker had pleaded not guilty to the charges. She has appealed the sentence and applied for bail.
Sinok is at risk of losing her lawmaker status in case her appeal is denied. รายงานจากราชบุรีนายชัดมงคลวิสมัยโกศล SMNI ประเทศไทยสวัสดีครับ
A rupture at a closed rock salt mine in northeastern Brazil belonging to the largest petrochemical company in Latin America triggered fears of a total collapse. The closed mine alarmed residents after it partially collapsed this past weekend. Officials previously warned that the mine was at risk of imminent collapse. The closed mine, operated by Brazilian petrochemical giant Braskem, has displaced tens of thousands of people in the past 4 decades and destroyed at least 5 urban neighborhoods. The excessive extraction of rock salt has affected around 200,000 people in the capital of Maceió in the Alagoas state alone. Several communities in the state capital became ghost towns as residents accepted Braskem's payouts to relocate, which was part of a $356 million settlement. Residents last week held a protest as the collapsing mine threatened to sink parts of a city inhabited by about 1 million people. President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos has instructed the Department of Agriculture and the National Irrigation Administration to finalize the construction of irrigation projects across the country within 4 months. Additionally, PBBM has mandated the swift completion of the Balbalungao Small Reservoir Irrigation Project in Nueva Ecija. The details from Valdivina Gracia.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. issued a directive on Wednesday to government agencies to expedite the construction of all water facilities and other supporting structures within 4 months. This initiative is part of the country's efforts to address the impacts of the El Niño phenomenon. During his speech at the inauguration ceremony of the Balbalungao Small Reservoir Irrigation Project, or BSRIP, in Nueva Ecija, President Marcos reminded the Department of Agriculture and the National Irrigation Administration to fast-track the completion of the said projects as quickly as possible.
So we remind once again the DA and the NIA to immediately complete the construction of irrigation facilities as well as other supporting structures based on the needs of our farmers. Kaya't kailangan nating gawin ang lahat ng kaya nating gawin para tayo'y makapaghanda para sa ating magiging tagtuyot.
Marcos also ordered the DA and NIA to promptly finish the construction of supporting structures for the Balbalungao Small Reservoir Irrigation Project, or BSRIP, in Nueva Ecija to help mitigate the effects of El Niño. He explained that a BSRIP would significantly enhance agricultural productivity or strengthen rice production in Nueva Ecija, known as the Rice Bowl of the Philippines.
I also call upon the NIA and the Department of Agriculture to make sure that there is timely completion of the other facilities of the project, such as its hydropower, its watershed components, so that communities will be able to fully enjoy the benefits of the project.
The BSRIP, valued at 1.28 billion pesos, consists of water infrastructure completed on February 13, 2019. The construction of the 887 million pesos 29.9-meter high earth-filled dam and related structures began on February 5, 2020 and was completed on November 15, 2023, ahead of the scheduled January target for 2024. Around 560 farmers and their families will benefit from the irrigation provided by the BSRIP, covering nearly 970 hectares of farmland in Nueva Ecija.
Once fully operational, this multi-purpose dam will provide irrigation for close to 1,000 hectares of agricultural land in Barangay San Isidro, Balbalungao, Salvacion, Mapangpang, here in Lupao, benefiting about 560 farmers and their families.
The project also aims to create additional income opportunities through increased crop yields, fish culture, and tourism. It is expected to support watershed management, contribute to hydroelectric power generation, and combat the effects of El Niño in the country.
I wish to emphasize that this project will also help address the effects of El Niño. We must be prepared to counter its effects, which may last until the second quarter of 2024. Anticipating the success of the BSRIP in transforming the province's lands into thriving hubs of productivity, we remain steadfast in our pursuit of food security, poverty reduction, and economic growth.
For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Valdivina Gracia, SMNI News.
Dozens of deals have been signed between China and Vietnam after Chinese President Xi Jinping traveled the Southeast Asian country for a 2-day state visit. Xi met Vietnamese leaders on Wednesday, which marked the second day of his visit to the capital of Hanoi. The deals signed involved agreements on diplomatic ties, railways, and telecommunications. This is the Chinese president's first visit to Vietnam in 6 years. Xi also paid tribute to the mausoleum of the founding leader of Communist Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh, and met with other senior officials. High-ranking Vietnamese officials welcomed the Chinese leader with a special banquet hosted by the Vietnamese president and the General Secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Vietnam alongside their spouses. The visit also marks the 15th anniversary of the establishment of a comprehensive strategic and cooperative partnership between China and Vietnam. Vice President Sara Duterte recognized the bravery shown by Dr. Lorraine Badoy and Jeffrey K. Eric Celis. She also expressed her gratitude to all Filipinos who supported and stood in solidarity with the two SMNI hosts. Hannah Jane Sancho reports.
Vice President Sara Duterte voiced her support to Dr. Lorraine Badoy and Jeffrey K. Eric Celis in a message released on Wednesday. She extended her thanks to all who rallied behind the cause of the two SMNI hosts. Dr. Badoy and K. Eric were detained for days at the House of Representatives for standing up for their freedom of expression and freedom of the press. Vice President Duterte commended the courage and resilience displayed by Dr. Badoy and K. Eric in defending their rights and upholding the Constitution. The Vice President also acknowledged the bravery and dedication to the country shown by the two SMNI hosts as part of the successful campaign of the Duterte administration against insurgency terrorism under the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-LCAC. Meanwhile, the Vice President also expressed gratitude to retired Philippine Military Academy alumni and former members of the Armed Forces of the Philippines who advocated for the release of Dr. Badoy and K. Eric. The Vice President added that the call from PMA alumni and AFP soldiers also serve as a reminder of the importance of order, integrity, and good governance. Duterte also thanked members of the media, social media practitioners, professionals, IP leaders, and other sectors who played a role in the release of Dr. Badoy and K. Eric. The Vice President emphasized that the power lies in a united nation advancing rights, justice, truth, and the establishment of a peaceful and resilient nation. For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Hannah Jane Sancho, SMNI News.
The Legal Education Board recognizes Jose Maria College Foundation Incorporated College of Law as one of the schools that excelled in the 2022 bar examinations. More details from Margot Gonzalez.
Jose Maria College is recognized.
The Legal Education Board, or LEB, on Wednesday recognized Davao-based Jose Maria College Foundation Incorporated College of Law as one of the top-performing law schools in the 2022 bar examinations. JMCFI's College of Law ranked third among the law schools in the Philippines with 51 to 100 takers during the examinations. JMCFI's College of Law Assistant Dean for Admin and Student Affairs Attorney Kay Laurente received the award, expressing her utmost gratitude to its founding president, Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy.
We are truly honored and so humbled for this prestigious recognition given to us by the Legal Education Board. And on behalf of the JMC College of Law family, we would like to thank the Legal Education Board for this award. And of course, we could never do this without, of course, our founding president, Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy, whose vision and leadership has been our guiding light to always strive for excellence. And also, we would like to thank also Dean Torion and the whole faculty and staff of the JMC Law, who has also been a very important force for this success. And of course, the students who have passed the bar exams, past and present. Without you, without your commitment, your dedication to learning, and your commitment also to always striving for excellence, true to our promise, is we could never attain this success.
LEB Chairperson Ana Marie Melanie Trinidad meanwhile congratulates JMCFI's College of Law, recognizing how the school performs well in the bar.
Congratulations to all our awardees. I've met the Associate Dean of your law school, SMNI. So congratulations, and I think their performance in the bar is improving every year.
JMCFI's College of Law also performed very well during the 2020 bar examinations. For first-time takers, the Jose Maria College of Law got an 86.36% passing rate.
Sa training that we had for the students. Even the medium of exam was exemplify, and the JMC College of Law provided that for the students so that during exam they will be more comfortable, and of course the students themselves. So they are the heart and the soul of the academic institution. So their success is because of their commitment to learning, really, and also their passion for legal education.
Laurenti hopes that JMC-FI's College of Law will have a higher performance rate next year.
The JMC College of Law will continue to uphold the highest standard of legal education, and we will continue to strive for the excellence that our institution has been upholding. And of course, our aim is to have a higher rank pa, because we started with 100%. So our next goal is really to attain that achievement again, 100% for the next bar exams.
The LEB leadership is also hopeful that Philippine law schools will be able to continue to support its students.
Support from the owners, and if it's at state college and university, support from the LGUs. Financial help is really very important, because with a lot of, with enough funds, they're able to hire better professors, improve their facilities, and really that makes the students feel that there's something to look forward to.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Margaret Gonzalez, SMNI News.
And before we end, may you be inspired with a message of the appointed Son of God. You cannot strengthen the weak by weakening the strong. And for our Christmas countdown, it's only 11 days to go before Christmas. And that's all for today's edition of Newsline World. For more news update, you may visit SMNInewschannel.com or follow us on our official social media accounts on Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Sarah Santos. Thank you for watching Newsline World, and thank you to our beloved Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy, for the opportunity to be a part of this program. May you continue to listen on SMNI, as it delivers nothing but fair, truthful, and balanced news, because SMNI is your source of credible news.